Okay, I guess we'll get rolling here. As usual, we have some minutes that were sent out. Anybody sees an error or needs to change something, if you don't get in touch with us, or just informal notes. Adam, you want to start with the operations report?
Yes. One moment, I'll go ahead and get this. Okay, good morning all. So just the typical numbers that we post through or at every manager's meeting.
Let me stop you real quick. Mention that you've emailed us, so they should have a copy.
Yeah, I sent an email out of this PowerPoint to everybody that's in the Board of Managers meeting, so that if you wanted to view this, you can. It should be in your email. You just click on it and take a look at it. I did want to point out just that we've been relying quite a bit on Wells Ranch. So compared to last May, there's a little bit more usage this May than there was last May. Dunlap is down a little bit, but as we come into June, we've been utilizing both the plants quite a bit. You're going to see numbers rise. I did want to mention Hayes Caldwell. Hayes Caldwell has used considerably more this May than they did in 2019. So the numbers are up at Hayes Caldwell. It's just trending over the last 4 years. The usages from each customer over this last month. Okay, at the Lake Dunlap Water Treatment Plant, again, Nanostone pilot is still under review by TCEQ. We did receive not notification, but I received a verbal from TCEQ saying that they did receive the report and that they are going to be reviewing it. Obviously, reviewing it from home. TCEQ is still operating from home. The ground storage tank rehab, there is still some outside cleaning that's left to be done on the tank. The contractor has acknowledged with me that yes, they need to get in and finish the cleaning. After that's done, we're going to go through a final walkthrough. The completion of the rehab should be done by the end of the month.
So you get all the leaks fixed?
They got all the leaks on the tanks fixed. There is, however, one leak on the equalizer line between the two tanks, but that was not part of the contract. So we're going to have to get in ourselves, and I don't know if it's a flan gasket or what it could be, but we're gonna look into that. Wells Ranch Water Treatment Plant, well number 13 suffered a lightning strike, and the well motor is being rebuilt. CRWA staff are researching the possibility of carbon dioxide addition at the water treatment plant. What this would do is it boost alkalinity before the lime slurry, and essentially what that would accomplish for us is better saturation for the lime slurry and better results on the indices. So we are investigating that right now. So as you may remember, the last managers meeting, Mid-Cities had a pipeline break down on the intersection of 1604 and Lower Seguin Road, May 27th. The break was really due to surging that occurred from different fill valves and the operation of those fill valves. Really what happens is coming from the Wagner booster station going down towards Saws, there's, we have the Converse meter, we have Cibolo, we have Green Valley meters that if they're all open at once, then that station is flowing a lot of water. And what we believe occurred here is when SAW closed down their line, all that water is still flowing through that pipeline. And so SAW closed their line down at the...
It was actually us.
Well, yeah, it was us. Yeah, I'm sorry. At the 1604 booster station, you know, we filled the tank up there, that valve closed, and because of all the flow heading that direction, it caused that surge and pipeline break. So some of the measures that we've put in place recently is that Wagner Booster Station has been operating as a pressure, off of pressure, and we decided to try to key the station off of 1518 elevated tank and run it off of elevated pressure rather than pump pressure. Pump pressure can cause all that surging. Elevated pressure stabilizes any of that surging that can occur. There are some elevation issues with customers out there. We can serve mostly everybody off of that 1518 tank. There is a situation where we have to provide pressure to like Cibolo. Cibolo's 1103 tank is at a higher elevation. So we are actually in the process of looking at and installing some piping in the future where we can eliminate, I try to explain this the best way I can. It's hard without going into full details. So where we can run that section of pipeline off of elevated pressure indefinitely from here on out. But we have to put some piping into place, and we have to serve another tank. I did a horrible job explaining that. But anyway, just know that we are looking into how to run that whole station off of elevated pressure rather than pump pressure. Due to the sudden influx of COVID-19, Canyon Regional changed how we're doing operations around here. Let me give a little bit of history behind that. When COVID first came out, we cut our crews down to where we had people not working together side by side, shoulder to shoulder. And so about the first month, we operated that way. And as Texas began to open back up, we decided that we would go ahead and bring our operators back, but with certain measures in place like masks, hand sanitizer, sanitize areas frequently, daily. And so we had some guidelines for our employees to follow. Well, with the recent influx of cases that have come out, particularly over this last weekend in this area, we decided that we would go ahead and go back to an operation where we have crews separated. Our goal is that if we keep, I'll use Dunlap as an example. We have 4 people working at Dunlap, let's say 4 operators here, and we had to separate at least a couple of those operators so that if one operator gets COVID-19, then we have a backup group that can come in and run the plant, because we just can't have the whole plant shut down. So if you have all your operators working together and one of them gets COVID-19, then they're all quarantined, and then we don't have anybody to run the plant. So we've had to create that separation at all of our plants so that we can have people here to operate it if it were to happen. Any questions or comments on that? That's pretty much it. There's just not a lot happening.
There's no questions. Umberto.
Okay. So currently, with everything going on, all the meetings are still virtual. So it's either through computer or telephone. So I'm going to begin with GBRA. As you know, GBRA, on my minutes of the last Board of Managers, GBRA is engaging the Habitat Conservation Plan. We're going to be monitoring the plan. They are looking for a consultant to help them initiate the process. One of the things Canyon Regional should try to remember or consider is whether we become part of this Habitat Conservation Plan. Mind you, it's for the whole basin, but I do think, my opinion is at some point, in order to fund this Habitat Conservation Plan, GBRA is going to charge the whole basin some type of rate to fund this. So either we come in the front end and help with the process, or we come in the back end and pay for this mitigation process for these endangered species. So we'll monitor the process. I do know they're going to be seeking stakeholders. Again, we are one of the largest water users for GBRA, so we may be considered, we may want to be considered or consider being part of the process. Either way, I do see they're going to be coming after us or asking us to help fund it at some point, either through rates or some donation. Preserve Lake Dunlap Association, again, the meeting notes reflect that the meeting has been moved, the election has been moved to November. We're still waiting for a town hall meeting that's going to occur in September. Again, the election is to basically create an improvement district to help fund the dam at Lake Dunlap. Regional's initially prepared plan was approved. As you recall, there was a couple of town hall meetings that were undertaken, all virtually. Since then, a few comments have been received by the public. Water Development Board has provided some comments to Regional regarding this plan. Fortunately for Canyon Regional, none of these comments affect our water management strategy. So we're fine. Next regional meeting is July 30th. I believe at that time we will be looking at all comments, coming up with a response, because the way it works with regional, you have to have a response to every public comment that's received. And then possibly at the August meeting, the plan will get approved prior to September, October, which needs to be submitted to the state for approval. Regional Water Alliance meeting, we typically meet after regional. I'm assuming after July 30th, there will be a meeting to basically discuss what happened at regional. This again will probably be a virtual meeting, so we'll probably have a quorum at this meeting because everybody could pick up the phone and call into this meeting. The GBC Guadalupe Basin Coalition, there really hasn't been a meeting. Again, with everything going on, it's probably best that we haven't met with. We won't meet with this group until COVID is done away with, or I really don't know when the next meeting with the Guadalupe Basin. Although we have feelers out there, I don't know when that's going to happen. GMA 13, the next meeting is June 26th. Again, there's no agenda for this meeting. This is also going to be another virtual meeting, so I'm assuming we'll get some data with regards to some of the modeling that occurred and give us some responses as to some of the answers and questions that we had. The Guadalupe County Groundwater Conservation District, there was a meeting. Importance of that meeting is Schertz again had a monitoring well that they were looking to relocate. And the district basically allowed them to relocate their monitoring well, which is part of the permit. Of concern for us is that this monitoring well is going to be located, this new monitoring well is going to be located at the Bloomberg property. So if you recall what I discussed last go around was, there was an enhanced recharge study done where they were looking at recharging the aquifer. And again, the Bloomberg property was one of the places of concern in which they can recharge the aquifer, so they're looking at that. So I guess I'm bringing this up because, as you know, we do have permits on Bloomberg, and so it appears to me that a lot of this stuff is being pushed on Bloomberg property because, for one thing, it's large, but also because one of the board members sits on there and he sees this as a opportunity for him to get kudos, I believe. But again, if there's going to be a monitoring well, possibly be located at the Bloomberg property, but also there is some interest in enhancing recharge using that large tract of land. So we'll monitor that, make sure that our interest is still maintained and we still can produce our water, our Wilcox water. Also at Guadalupe, they did a rainwater harvesting presentation. This basically was geared towards residential and commercial use, nothing of large scale, like to try to recharge the aquifer. So it was very geared towards, again, residential and commercial. We did, at these meetings, they do allow Canyon Regional to provide input, what is happening in Canyon Regional. I have been providing them input as to what's going on with Canyon Regional, but they also, just like the Gonzales, they do discuss what Canyon Regional is producing, just like other entities. And so just for your entertainment, I'll go ahead and tell you what, Canyon Regional's May Carrizo production was 102 acre feet, and CRWA's Wilcox production was 125 acre feet. So when this is discussed, pretty much everybody says, okay, that's fine, let's move forward. There was no concern with our production. In the past, they had questioned, why are we using more Wilcox, or why are we using more Gonzales? What's happening at Lake Dunlap? And so we've addressed those issues and those concerns. With regards to Gonzales, the thing of interest here is that SAWS had requested a renewal of their production permit, and it was granted because it was permanent. It was administratively complete. Total production for SAWS's permit is 9 wells, and they're producing 11,688 acre feet. So SAWS did get their request. At Gonzales, again, it was discussed how much water that those entities produce. CRWA is producing 282 acre feet back in May, which is about 46% of its monthly allowable production. So again, no questions on that. Of importance and of concern for us is that, if you recall, we submitted applications to the Texas Water Development Board Flood Infrastructure Fund. LAN helped us complete these applications. We did meet on time, and we did send applications on time. The Hayes Caldwell Water Treatment Plant flood wall, we submitted an application for $1.5 million. The Lake Dunlap crossing, we did submit an application for 1.6. So the next step is to basically wait and see if those applications get reviewed, and hopefully we get invited to submit a full application sometime in August or September, with the hope of possibly getting some funding in late fall, early January. Again, very competitive. Kudos to LAN for helping us. Again, we'll see where it takes us. And again, our due diligence is to try to help us with our projects by finding money out there. So with that, I'll take any questions that anybody might have. Thank you.
So, no comments there. Graham, I think you're online.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
You want to talk about the Alliance?
Sure. I'll give you an update. I'm getting a little bit of an echo here, so forgive me if I lose my track of thought here a second. But good news is we got approval from the Texas Water Development Board to move forward with our well drilling project. So we've got our pre-con scheduled tomorrow morning with Hydro for that work. Expect they'll start mobilizing first part of July and start their drilling effort. So we're obviously excited to get that underway. We've also been moving forward, received and provided feedback on the 60% plan submittals on both the water treatment plant and the Segment A pipeline projects. That was basically done in late May, early part of June, and then this week we just got in the Segment B pipeline 60% submittal. So we're starting our reviews of that, and I think Segment D is the next one due in at the very end of July, and then the booster station into August. So we're moving forward with all the designs and continuing forward with getting those plan sets in and reviewing those and providing feedback and comments. We are looking at the overall budget. In some cases, we've had projects as we move forward further in design where the costs are coming down, like with Segment A, with our well drilling. In the case of the water treatment plant, the costs have gone up significantly. And so we're reviewing those, coming up with different cost saving or measures that we can take advantage of within that program to reduce the cost of that water treatment plant. We're still reviewing those with the design team, have a meeting later this week to go through those in more detail. So we're trying to look for ways that don't impact overall quality of the water we're producing, but ways we can reduce the costs and phase things. So that's under review right now. Otherwise, we're moving forward with our property acquisitions and trying to continue forward with getting all 300 easements procured and underway. We've continued forward with the hazardous materials surveys on the various properties where the environmental consultant has found the need to go forward with a phase 2 analysis. Thankfully, in all those cases, we haven't found anything that's going to pose us any challenges moving forward. And then the last update I guess I'll provide is that today at our board meeting, I expect we'll enter into a contract with a group called CD&P for our public relations work. So though you might recall that we did not renew a contract for the current fiscal year with GAP Strategies for our public relations. So we're going to move forward with CD&P and start those efforts back up for doing our social media, website updates, and other information and helping us communicate better with various elected officials and other folks in the area. So if you have any needs or any thoughts about information that you would like to see from Alliance Water that you think would be helpful with your customers, we'd appreciate that feedback, and we can work with them to kind of get something produced there to target those groups. So that's my basic update. I'm happy to provide any feedback or provide any answers to any questions anybody has.
Not hearing any questions. I don't know if Janine actually joined us on the infrastructure fund. Okay.
No, I did, yes.
You heard Humberto's report, but
I did.
you want to add to that?
No, we got the response back from the state saying they received the applications. I think in July they're supposed to be notifying those that they chosen to submit a full application. These were just the abridged versions. One thing that if they do request more information, we have to provide a scope and fee for the projects. We have one for the flood wall, but we'll have to create one for the pipeline. So we got to keep that in mind.
Any questions for Janine? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is David Kniper online?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll give a quick update on the GIS program. We met with staff last week, reviewed the website, had a lot of great comments, and so we've gone back. I actually had a meeting with KFW on Monday where we went through all the comments with them, provided them with quite a few as-builts, additional as-builts, and marked up exhibits, things like that. And so they're working on those updates. We should have all those complete here in a couple weeks. And so in the meantime, you'll start to see some changes on the website. Once we have those complete, we'll circle back around, have another meeting with staff, and try to knock out all the comments we can. And so, yeah, it's moving forward. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Do you want to add anything, Adam?
Yeah, I just like to add that what we're looking at, of course, is we're going to have a separate website that is like looking at the GIS that we want to provide to our various customers and managers, that they can go on there and look at piping if they need to in their area. So that's part of this phase 3 GIS, is to provide that website for like East Central or Green Valley. If they need to look at something immediately, they have access to it.
But will there be a secure access to it?
Yeah, they'll have to have a password entrance, and more than likely it'll probably be a 2-stage security entrance into the website. Those are things that we're going to be discussing with KFW and Utility Engineering Group here in the near future. Any other questions or comments?
Okay, we'll move on to report on Welch Ranch. David Weichel.
We have, I think as everybody knows, we have submitted a request to the Water Development Board for the remaining unallocated funds to be used on a generator project, installation of generators at 4 Canyon Regional sites that include the 2 Wilcox well sites, along with the 2 existing Carrizo wells at those sites, Wells Ranch Water Treatment Plant, and the Leisner booster pump station. And there has been some recent discussion with Canyon Regional about, instead of installing that generator at the Leisner booster station, installing it at the Wagner booster station. The application or the request was submitted to Water Development Board a couple months ago. They have received it and commented back on it, you know, as has been the usual case throughout these dealings with the Water Development Board. They have several questions and request additional information. One of the big concerns that they have is projects that have not been closed out. They have, you know, in the last, since that application has gone in, L&V has submitted closeout documents on the well field and roadway project to the Water Development Board, which is under review. And then I have submitted closeout documents for the Carrizo well project, drilling project, and the Wilcox well drilling project. That this has been our 3rd submittal of closeout documents on that. But those are under review right now, and they have indicated it would be in the neighborhood of originally like 1 month to get them closed out, and we're 2 or 3 weeks into that process now. You know, they have just recently, just today, they asked for a little more information on the two well projects. And then I think they have asked Byron this last day for additional information on the well field piping and roadway project. So we'll be responding back to those to get them all of the information that they want for those projects. There are 2 other projects that have not been closed out right now. It's the Wells Ranch Water Treatment Plant project with Cunningham Contractors, and the Leisner Wagner ground storage tank projects have not been closed out. And I think everybody is well aware of the history, the construction history on those 2 projects. David, I did talk with Mark Hall yesterday. I think he's been in contact with the Water Development Board recently, and I brought him up to date on the status of those 2 projects and what the plan of action to move towards closeout on those, and then make the Water Development Board comfortable with approving the commitment of the unallocated funds to the generator project. I think Mark Hall had expressed to you that there was some concern that the Water Development Board would not approve the generator project with those 2 projects hanging out there. But you know, I went through a scenario on Wells Ranch. I have talked with Jesse, our project manager at the Water Development Board, on this on several different occasions, and kept him up to date on what's going on. But the Wells Ranch Water Treatment Project, Canyon Regional has terminated the contract with Cunningham. The plant is up and running. All of, the punch list work that remained on the project is more superficial type work. There are also unpaid contractors on the project. Canyon Regional has contacted the bonding company for the unfinished work out there. So, we basically have an operational project with some unfinished work that's not affecting operations, that needs to be done. That could be, be done by the bonding company, or if Canyon Regional preferred, they could be, be done by a force account type work by Canyon Regional, or hire subcontractors to contractors to go out there and finish the work that remains. I think the biggest chunk of that was revegetation. There were a number of other more minor things. I think there's work on the electrical lines to the new high service pumps. There was, some settling and breaking that, but that was temporary repair and under operation. But talking with Mark, he agreed that was a good path moving forward on that project. On the Leisner-Wagner tank project, I explained to him that the mediation process that we went through, several parties, or preload, not Cunningham, but Peyton and their electrical subcontractor, and had offered money for the repairs. Tri-Hydro is being asked to contribute to the repairs. I think Trey had indicated in other recent meetings that we're getting closer and closer to coming up with the $500,000 plus or minus that are needed to make the repairs on the project. And then also, that contract with the Leisner tank included the Wagner tank, and that is completed. It is not been put into operation because of the issue with the Leisner tank project, but there's a change order that is being negotiated right now to remove the Wagner tank from that contract. So that's a part of the solution. But the Water Development Board's biggest concern is that Canyon Regional is going to come back and ask for additional monies to complete those two projects. And one of the things that would also probably be very helpful would, some sort of letter from Canyon Regional stating that, any costs that would exceed the contract amounts of these projects, would not be requested from the Water Development Board. So there, I've talked with these things with Jesse on a couple different occasions, and this is the path that I'm proposing to move forward with.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here for a second. I wasn't particularly concerned, David, with them not approving. It's just going to be a hurdle. It's not. My understanding is that the reviewer said that he wouldn't approve it, they'd have to go up the line in terms of the release, and you explained well the challenges we'll have with them on that. But I think we can get funds released still left there for the generators and projects there. Again, the two projects that's outstanding that we need to close is preload. David reported, and it's true, that we're getting close with rounding up between the parties money to just do the tank repair. And if we can do that, then we wouldn't move forward with our lawsuit. We have filed a lawsuit against Preload and Black Castle, the subcontractor. We have a hearing, just a televised hearing with attorneys on July the 20th to try to get dates set. We had attempted to get assigned a visiting judge because the current court is so tied up. And it really is bogging up now with not hearing cases other than virtually. We're hoping that it will put more pressure on the parties by getting these dates set up with lawsuit. On Cunningham, we have actively been pursuing with the bonding company. They came back with a whole list of things they wanted with information in the last few days. We've been finishing up compiling that. I'll be sending to the bonding company. As was reported at the last meeting, we canceled Cunningham's contract and told him we didn't want him to be back on the site, even the repair for the conduit. They in turn turned around and filed suit with us in Guadalupe County that it's hard to get a hearing in. So we need to probably talk about here and make a decision pretty soon. There are several subcontractors that Cunningham owes money to that he was going to pay them with the retainage that we're holding, and whether or not we would proceed and go ahead and pay those subcontractors off with the money that's in the retainage, or what to do there. I'm sure that they'll attack us on that action, but it is certified that those vendors are owed money on the job. I have some hope that both Preload and Cunningham will maybe come to light this year yet, and we can get those closed out. Cunningham is asking, or suing us for $1.3 million, which is, affects, if we actually, he was successful at that. But I think that, and our legal counsel thinks this too, that there's just no substantiated reason for those claims. Most of them were fabricated work that there's no basis for, and no authorizations that should have been formal change orders if he was serious about that. So we don't think we have a very huge liability for additional fees to Cunningham contractors. So I guess the message there is that I think we could feel pretty comfortable in the remaining funds moving forward with the generator and things of that, not be liable for charges to Cunningham.
I wanted to mention also that these $1.3 million in change orders have all come after Cunningham abandoned the site back in the end of March 2019.
Yes, that is true. David mentioned the Wagner tank. We have actually put water back in it just to make sure that it's not leaking. We do have a proposed agreement with Preload to go ahead and do the maintenance that's required for the year, and then extend the 1-year warranty from that date. We've not got that executed, but they're in agreement with that, and then we'll use the Wagner tank as if it's all been accepted. things of that nature. Any questions or comments on what's been said so far?
Joe mentioned that y'all were gonna move the generator from Leisner to Wagner.
Yes, we're thinking key-wise, we can bypass Leisner Booster Station. And we actually have been doing that for a bit. And if we were actually in an emergency situation with the power being out regionally, maybe that would be an option. We're looking at it. One of the elements, though, is that do we have enough capacity for the entire system on bypass? And we're actually running a full-scale test on that right now as we speak, about being able to keep up with the Leisner bypass, just using pressure from Wells Ranch through to Wagner. It looks pretty promising, and having that as a backup rather than a generator, and having the capacity at Wagner's the thought there, but we haven't made a firm decision about that yet.
So I got a question regarding the generators. So the generators are not going to be approved unless we go above or go through a different process with the Water Development Board, because we have these pending issues with these mitigation occurring, correct? Now, is there a possibility of us getting some type of reimbursement if we move forward with the generators, or we have to resolve the mediation and then move forward with the generators with whatever monies we have? Or can we do a combination of what you're saying, send a letter saying in the event that we have monies that exceed, we'll use monies, whatever we have within our pocketbook to pay for an additional cost? Or, you know, what is it that we need to do? Can we do?
Well, I think that basically we would tell the Water Development Board if we spend the money on generators, and then we had to pay out for these others, that would be our liability, and that they would move forward with funding that. And again, right now, we have no claims against us, so to speak, with any value to preload. And of course, Cunningham has stated $1.3 million. That would be the decision to make. Do we move forward with that still pending? But I think the Water Development Board would understand that we can close that out and we can move on. And if we lost some money there and we did not have it in the Water Development Board funding, we'd have to find a way to pay it.
And so the other question I have is arbitrage. We're not concerned about that. I mean, because this has been going on for a while. Should we?
Well, it's actually no term of arbitrage. Okay. We went into mediation.
No, I'm talking about with the Water Development Board, with all this money, or, you know, this thing is going on.
No arbitrage is fine.
Okay, that's what I'm concerned about. Not the.
But the Water Development Board, you know, would like to go ahead and close out the loan because it's a 2015 loan. It's the longest we've ever, you know, been running on a Water Development Board loan without closing.
So it kind of helps us too. Let's close it out. We got a project that's going to take up the money. Let us move forward.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Everybody's staying pretty quiet out there.
Sounds gone muted.
Okay. Marcus, Hayes Cowell Water Treatment Plant?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, can y'all hear me okay?
You are great.
Okay. Hayes Caldwell Water Treatment Plant improvements, which is the ozone ground storage tank and river pump station improvements. The first item there is the Water Development Board update. So similar to the last information you were hearing about, the board, you know, this project, the original loan amount was $5 million. The engineer's estimate for all of the improvements to date is around $10 million. And the board wants a letter of sufficiency of funds for anything above and beyond their loan amount. And we updated the sufficiency of funds in May. And on May 27th, we requested a reallocation of funds to pull some of that, shift some of that money back into design and get that released to keep us going on design associated with the amended contract amount for design. Jesse at the Water Development Board's been a little bit slow in responding to that, but this morning I got an email and he said it's likely going to be accepted for the proposed changes. And, you know, we've had to provide justification for that reallocation. We provided the information on the proposed bond that we're talking about to pay for the difference. And we also had that San Marcos Shared Facilities report that really detailed a lot of the bond amount and the financial associated with that. So I think he saw that information and he said he's going to be drafting a memo to review with his team this week to get to us. So we hope to see that by the end of this week or early next week. On the environmental side, you know, the authority acquired the Carlisle tract, and there's still a tenant on the Carlisle tract. However, we are using that tract for our design of the water quality pond and improvements. That water quality pond is one of the City of San Marcos requirements for their watershed protection plan, since we're in the ETJ and permitting through them. So I don't know if y'all can see what I threw up there, sharing screen, but the pink area is the Carlisle tract that's being added into our project area. And the yellow area is kind of some drainage improvements in the water quality pond where we're proposing it on that property. We need environmental clearance of that property and to be able to use it for the improvements on this project. And so we have CRWA as our environmental sub-consultant. They did a field survey out there to gather some data, and they submitted a letter to the Texas Historical Commission because we have a known registered archaeological site at this location, and they basically requested to the Historic Commission, you know, their determination on whether or not we need to do archaeological survey of this little plot of land, since we've surveyed and got antiquities permit for the other part of the plant land. Well, THCC came back and stated, yes, they're going to require an archaeological survey. So we're getting a quote from CRWA to do that, to be able to clear the Carlisle tract. And in meeting with Mr. Davenport, he said you might as well also look at clearing the 4 acres of the area that's undeveloped inside of this Canyon Regional property. We're proposing the decant ponds there in the future, not in this project, but a future project. So we are also getting a separate proposal from CRWA to be able to do the legwork basically that would satisfy TWDB environmental clearance on that property, even though we don't have any funds associated for that property. So we should have those proposals available to share with Canyon Regional early next week. That's the update. Other than that, we're working on continuing on what we can on the design with respect to the pump station and the ozone and the ground storage tank. And we are wrapping up the City of San Marcos permitting package, which is going to include a site permit application, a watershed protection plan. Also in there is floodplain modeling to show no rise on the river from our pump station improvements. And then we also have the plats. We're doing a double plat, platting the Canyon Regional property, which was never platted before, and also the BIS property behind the site for the little land swap that we need there to get rid of the easement through the plant property. So that's the update. Questions? Any other questions about Hayes Caldwell?
On the bond sale itself, we are projecting doing that in the first part of this next year in 2021, actually issuing those bonds. In the interim, we're going to get entity approvals, and we are going to change the regional contract. So several provisions in that regional contract that really were built back when we started the plant. It's kind of outdated. What we're trying to do is make the regional contract also include the city of San Marcos. They will not actually be in the bond sale. They've decided that they will just give us cash for their portion of the new improvements plus the buy-in. We've been kind of in the bond attorney conversation about whether we would have a interlocal agreement plus regional water supply agreement with San Marcos. San Marcos has requested that we just have one document so that it'd be easier for them presenting this to city council to get their approvals. I actually ended up with 2 conversations yesterday, one with Jeff Kuhn, and Kuhn was saying, well, I'm pretty sure they were going to stay with 2 documents because it's cleaner that way. Stephanie Levy, who's actually working on this, talked to me later, and she said, no, I think I'm going to be able to get it all as one agreement. So our team is not exactly all pulling on the rope in the same direction, but we're working at trying to get it there. San Marcos is anxious to move on forward. They've been through staff and done their evaluations, and they'd like to go ahead and get their approvals and do what they need to do on their side. We have actually not made any real efforts so far with the current entities and moving forward with approval on that, but this COVID and everything else, it's not always easy explaining some of this detail and putting documents down. So we've been kind of holding off on that, but it's a job we need to start doing. Once we actually move into the expansion and get the plan up to par, we're actually going to have additional raw water capacity, which has been kind of our Achilles heel this last summer. I wanted to mention in this that we did set up an additional pump and generator at Hayes Colwell to help us get by this summer with the existing river pump and operations. So it's getting us some time. Of course, we're in violation with the THMs over in that area particularly during the summertime. We're not actually in violation, but the water systems are. We haven't really found a good way to resolve that issue as it stands right now. The other thing I wanted to mention about the Hayes Colwell plant, more in the budget process, but GBRA rate, they gave a letter for that, but there will be an increase in the maintenance. I am making the assumption that they had a lot to do with the raw water intake over here on the canal, but they say it's having to do with additional cost for energy and things of that. We'll talk further about that in the money part, but there will be an increase in cost from GBRA on the raw water infrastructure. The BIS agreement, the land adjacent to us, we're still kind of in process here, but part of this platting process is for them to answer questions. We've been bugging them, but they've been a little bit sluggish, which is holding us up in filing the plats and getting city approval for the building permits. Seems like this project is always, you push on the gas and somebody's pushing on the brake. You just can't seem to get busted through. The construction and everything's all being held up with environmental, city approvals, these various aspects, but hopefully when we plow through, we'll have gotten the property all together in one piece without these easements and infringements and come together with a better plan. So questions or comments about the Hayes Cowell water treatment plant? Any concerns? Okay, for the next budget, board meeting, I don't know that we have a ton of issues coming up. I do know that we may end up going to the board for changes in our retirement, our decisions. We've got a couple of things pending there if we can get it up before the board meeting. There's one element about changing the rate that we pay in, whether we change that rate or not, or leave it, and then we'll talk about that at the board meeting. Budget is moving forward. May have a short report on that. If we can get the agreement put together on Wagner, that may be on the agenda. Is there anybody that has any items for the Board of Managers or the Board of Trustees that wanted to talk about? Is there any other? Yes.
We may need to discuss the transfer of the contract from the WSP to the SGP for Maxwell.
Okay.
And also have those trustee positions moved over to the district also, maybe a new resolution. I know I just sent those to you a couple weeks ago, but we may need to redo that again since we've assigned all contracts and applications from now on over to the district.
Okay. I'll get with you on that topic. Any other items, comments? I have almost 11 o'clock, 11:58. Thank you all very much. We will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, David.
10:58.
I'm sorry.
10:58.
10:58.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.